So good morning and thank you for joining the American Pacific Borates October Investor Webinar. I'm Jane Morgan and today I am joined by Executive Director Anthony Hall, CEO Henry Tausch, Head of Corporate Development Chance Pipitone, Chief Operating Officer Tyson Hall, and our CCO and CTO Dino Ganamari. The presenters will expand on several agendas, provide a company update and engage in a Q&A session. To ask a question throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Anthony, I'll pass over to you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. We did lodge a copy of the presentation with the ASX this morning, so people do have the ability to review it after this. The three purposes of the webinar are really to explain the US listing mechanics and the timeline, to provide an update on the project initiatives, and really to provide a comment on the Boron market backdrop. What you are going to hear in the session is, we think we've got a much stronger project that's starting to emerge at various levels. We think we've got a stronger resource that is going to emerge at various levels again, hopefully a lot larger and hopefully a lot more meaningful. We've obviously continued to have that focus on the advanced materials. We'll be talking about the US listing, but in that context, we've got Albemarle trading at 27 times an EBITDA, which gives you a suggestion of the types of EBITDA target multiples that we're looking at. The Boron market is continuing to be very tight, so you'll hear a lot about that. You'll hear a lot about the work that Dino and the team are doing with respect to partners. You'll hear from the US management team, which is fantastic, and understand the skill sets that we've been able to bring together in what truly is a world-class management team. You'll hear about the commitment to ESG in respect to the initiatives that we're working on, and also what that means in a US market context. And in addition to that, we'll give you a lot of, I think, reasons to buy ABR. Or 5E advanced materials as we're transitioning to. From my standpoint, I won't take a lot of time. I think that the big thing with respect to the US listing and mechanics, we've had a lot of questions come through, but the fundamental premise is that bottom bold comment, which is that a shareholder that owns 1% of ABR today will continue to own 1% of 5E advanced materials. For the shareholders that do not make an election with respect to your shareholding, on one day you will have 100 shares, for instance, in ABR. The following day, you will see 100 CDIs in 5E advanced materials. So from that standpoint, 100 shares day one and 100 shares day two, and we expect them to be trading at a very similar share price. From a tax perspective, we do understand that rollover relief will apply, which effectively means that your acquisition date for your ABR shares will continue to be your acquisition date for your 5E advanced material shares. We have tried to do the right thing by shareholders, and we're working through a tax ruling to that effect from the tax office, but the tax legislation is relatively clear with respect to that. From a timeline standpoint, we expect to have the initial scheme meeting from the shareholders in early December, as you can see with respect to the important dates, which ultimately takes us through to a timeline that sees a listing in late December. There may be slippage, but at this stage we are expecting a listing pre-Christmas. But in any event, I think it's safe to say that it should be in January if it's not pre-Christmas. So just in summary from my standpoint, 5E is acquiring ABR. ABR and 5E shareholders will be identical once that acquisition is complete. For every single ABR share that shareholders have, they will continue to have one 5E CDI tradable on the ASX. So you will see no difference with respect to your number of shares, nor will you see any difference with respect to the share price in the short term, we believe. And in summary, if you own 1% of ABR today, you will continue to own 1% of 5E advanced materials when we're listed on NASDAQ, and Henry and the team are progressing what is a really exciting project. And look, everybody's got my phone number, email address for Elvis and I as our Australian contacts, and we're very happy to answer any questions with respect to the US listing mechanics, but hopefully it was relatively clear. One share today, one share tomorrow in a CDI that should be trading at a very similar share price. Henry.
Hey, Anthony, thank you so much. And yeah, thank you everyone to joining our webinar here. I have a couple of slides only. I will introduce my team in a second, but I want to have one slide on Boron because it's part of the education, and I'm actually think that lots of people on the line know what boron is, but I call it the WD-40 of the element world. Boron is used in many different applications, right? And what you see here, it's where I'm excited about. It's some of them are the old applications like glass fertilizer, but there's many new applications that are tied to these mega trends like batteries, wind turbines, nuclear, semiconductors, and they will all grow. Those markets will all grow a lot faster than GDP. So from a market perspective, very excited. I want to make one more comment then. So you have it in many applications, but you can find it only in very few places where you can actually mine it. So there's very few projects ongoing right now where boron is being mined. And as a matter of fact, we believe that we're probably the first new source of boron coming to the market soon. So with that, I'll introduce my team. Jane, can you move the slide? So on the line right now, we got our core team. Before the introduction, I want to make a few comments. So this team is really multi-skilled. When they will introduce themselves, you can see that we got broad skills around, general management, capital markets, operations, project execution, chemist, market development. So I'm really, really excited about this team. I call it the A team. So quick introduction of myself. I joined the company about 3 months ago now. Very excited about this project and the NASDAQ listing and building a team. We're hiring people, not just this team that is relatively new, but the second layer and third layer is being hired as well. My background is general management in many global businesses. My last role was in Shawcor. I was the COO there. Shawcor is a public company at the ASX. And before that, I spent a lot of time in Honeywell. I'll let the others introduce themselves. So I hand it over to Dino first. Dino?
Thanks, Henry. Hey, folks, I appreciate the opportunity here. I'm Dino Gnanamgari. I'm the Chief Commercial and Technical Officer for the company. I joined ABR on June 1st. I have a PhD in inorganic chemistry, and I spent the first part of my career leading teams of scientists to develop specialty applications and products within the specialty markets. And after that, I took on some general management responsibilities within the specialties businesses across multiple companies. My latest assignment was to have P&L management responsibility for the Albemarle Lithium Specialties business. I'm very excited to be part of this team and part of this project because I see a great white space to develop boron advanced materials for the future and actually meet future-facing market needs that boron can empower. So happy to be here, and I'll pass that along to Tyson.
All right, thanks, Dino. So my name's Tyson Hall. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ABR. My background is in specialty chemicals. I spent 15 years with Albemarle Corporation, ultimately running their bromine and lithium businesses. For some background information, bromine is mined at about 2.5 kilometers depth, solution mined at about 0.4%, so very technically challenging, actually, probably more technically challenging than what we're doing here. And we built out a full specialties portfolio behind that mining operation. So I'm very pleased to be here at ABR and get to build a similar operation and a similar portfolio around boron. And with that, I'll pass it over to Chance.
Thank you, Tyson. And I'm Chance Pipitone. I lead our capital markets and investor relations initiative. My background really began in investment banking. But for nearly the past decade, I've served senior investment roles at large institutional investment managers, including Brookfield, Luminous, and Salient. Really, my most recent role was running a long-short energy infrastructure portfolio, 650 million. And really with that, I'll probably just jump right into our marketing strategy, as I think that ties in very well. So really from sitting on the buy side, one thing that I clearly always looked at were catalysts. It's one of the most important things when making an investment decision. I'll tell you what we have in front of us is a massive catalyst. We are entering the largest financial market in the world. That's what got me excited about the opportunity and the story. So just to put it in context, the US financial market on a GDP basis is $20 trillion. Australian market is about 1.3. So we're 20 times the Australian market. And on top of that, California is $3 trillion, which is nearly double that of the Australian market. So as I look at opportunity and catalysts, we are about to enter a massive investment pool and a massive pool of institutional and retail investors. And we're coming with a product that is very well suited and attractive to them. So I think really achieving this is fairly straightforward. There's a couple things we have to do. We need to have a clear story. We need to have clear milestones, and we need to hit those milestones. Very simple. But what we specifically plan to do is we're going to partner with a blue chip US investment bank. We're nearing finalization of that firm as we speak. It's going to be a top 3 US investment bank. They're going to support our relisting efforts. They're going to put us in touch with all their broker networks. We are going to see all their institutional clients and retail investors. That's going to be a massive opportunity, and that's going to allow us to cast a very wide net when we market the story. We're going to round out the investment banking partners, ideally coming with a list of over 3 high-quality investment banks that really support our story. After that, it's somewhat education from a broker research standpoint. Equity research is critical in the United States. They're an extension of our management team. They tell the story. So we need to have analysts who are well aligned and really supporting the story as we research and outreach to investors. So what we're going to do there is specifically our teach-ins with investors and analysts, make sure they understand clearly what we're doing and that they feel comfortable and confident in our abilities. So we plan to do those teach-ins here relatively soon, and we're going to do that in ongoing efforts. The biggest, I guess, hurdle to overcome, but also the biggest opportunity is just education of Boron. You all as Australian investors and supporters of the story know Boron well, but in America, it's not well known. We need to educate. Boron 101 is really what we call it. Once people understand that this is, lithium 12 years ago, I think this story will resonate very well. We just got to make sure that it's understood. So we got to link it to everyday applications, which is relatively easy to do. We just have to make sure that that's in investors' minds. So we're also going to do site visits. Most investors, what always resonated with me was the ability to touch the asset, see it, visualize it, really conceptualize it. So we're going to do that. Lastly, we're going to target we're going to target all major US financial hubs, all the hubs, of New York City, Chicago, San Fran, LA. California, again, is a massive opportunity. It is in California's backyard. It is nearly twice the size of the Australian market. And we look forward to seeing how many Californian investors are interested in our project, which we believe will be many, given the ESG aspects and the project location. Lastly, and this is very critical, I want to highlight, we are committed to the Australian investors through listing and ongoing. The Australian investor, you all have supported the story from its infancy, and we will absolutely maintain the relationships going forward. Not just us supporting you all as a management team and company, but we very much think that the American investor will too. Because any share appreciation, any share buying from the American side will support you indirectly. So ideally, in a nice world, we could see inclusions in the indices in Australia, and ideally also in America. So all we're doing is expanding the investor pool. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to Tyson to talk operations.
All right. Thank you, Chance. So I recognize that many of the folks on the line would like to get an update on where we stand operationally. To start off with, I know we've said publicly several times that we are working on head grade tests, and really what that means is optimizing our boric acid concentration as we extract it, and minimizing some of the impurities that may come with it as we mine it. And so we now have real world data behind that, and our upcoming economics will incorporate that data. So I'm happy to say that our initial results are encouraging as we had expected. When we talked through the production plant, the actual processing plant, we want to make sure that we optimize that based on CapEx and based on right sizing it. So currently we're working on process design around how many production trains make sense and what the optimal size of a production train is to get to our desired outcome. And of course, we need to align our production capability with mining. So we are dealing with a natural resource here. There's some expected variability, and our processing plant has to have the capability to deal with that. We published core sample data and ore body data that shows interesting concentrations of lithium. And if you think through our process, we're extracting boric acid, dissolving that. We also dissolve lithium. And so as we go through our production process, we concentrate boric acid. And by definition, we're also concentrating lithium as we go through that. So if you think through our production scheme, we have a concentrated stream of lithium available to us. And at today's market prices, it makes sense for us to extract that. And so we're currently doing process design around what lithium extraction looks like. From an ESG perspective, really ESG is inherent in our project. If you think about the environmental impact of a solution mining operation compared to open pit, I mean, it's tremendously lower. We also have a large opportunity for heat integration in our process. One example of that would be our pregnant leach solution, our PLS, as it's extracted from the ground, actually is warmed geothermally to 55 degrees centigrade. So our first processing step is actually energy input, and we're getting that energy via geothermal. So that's very exciting to us. We've announced publicly that we've got a small scale boron facility that's scheduled for mechanical completion in mid-2022. We're very excited about that. That's going to give us data at scale, and it's also going to give us commercial quantities of boric acid to go ahead and target further downstream products, specialty products. So we're excited at the opportunities that presents to us. From a cost optimization standpoint, we're happy to say that our head grade tests have allowed us to remove solvent extraction from the processing plan. That reduces complexity quite a bit in terms of processing, which has an impact on both capital and operating expense. So a very positive development for us. And then we continue to look at what power generation options are open to us, including cogen. And finally, we've been working diligently on increasing the size and the quality of our resource. As many of you may have seen, we did recently purchase some adjacent land, and so we have a very high quality and large resource available to us. With that, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Dino.
Hey, thanks, Tyson. So as Anthony alluded to and Henry said, the market is indeed tightening, and it's just manifesting itself essentially within the North American market because of strained supply chains, and it's also leading to some of the volume commitments that were essentially made in the past to be challenged. What that's consequently doing, as we've published within the markets, is that the pricing of boric acid and its adjacent specialties, in respect of where they're being consumed, rise year over year, and the spot pricing reaching multi-year highs. And we see that going forward too. And then because we are a US-based asset and we have uniqueness there for boron production and advanced materials, that's nicely paving its way to have strategic partnerships and relationships with customers that want to work with us because of our focus on advanced materials. They're interested in security of supply, price stability, innovation to support their future growth, and also our focus on ESG, because that itself resonates with their own end markets. And we're here at the right time to partner with them because of these challenges that they're facing for the future. So the conversations are going great, and we've also engaged with universities to pursue certain boron advanced material research, because we want to fund the future growth, not just the current growth, and working with partners that buy into our advanced material story. There's also a significant amount of appetite to develop these boron-based derivatives, not just for current needs, but also for future needs. And our partners are especially happy to work with us because of our focused strategy. And there's plenty of untapped market applications as they go into decarbonization, food security, and urbanization that will power our strategy forward. So we're right here at the right time, and the market is very receptive to our strategy and what we're trying to do within the marketplace. So with that, I'll go to the next slide. So as you can clearly see, this just portrays the challenges on the supply side for the demand that's coming in. And some of the demand that you see on the far right will actually grow quite a bit in the future. And a variety of boron and boron derivatives are key and important to make sure that these applications essentially succeed. So therefore, we are inherently tied towards electrical transport, decarbonization, and food security.
So I'll just quickly, we appear to only have one question, which is quite easy to answer, which I'll do, and then I'll hand over to Henry to conclude. The answer to the question is, can a CDI holder move over to ordinary US shares at a later stage once the redomiciliation has occurred, e.g. later next year? And the answer is yes. So you can move your shares between NASDAQ and Australian CDIs and vice versa. So guys, we must have encouraged everybody, given that we only have one question. So well done. So Henry, over to you. You're on mute. Sorry, Henry, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Sorry about that. So I want to summarize this a little bit, right? So as you know, when Anthony started, we had 3 objectives. So we want to explain, the mechanics and the timeline of the US listing. So I hope we've done that. We want to update everyone on the line on our project initiatives. I think Tyson has done it as well, and a little bit more color on the boron market, and I think Dino has done that. So I think you're all like us excited and understand that I normally capture it in two takeaways, right? Boron is the new lithium. I think that's one that really resonates, and we are at the right place at the right time, right? I think these two kind of capture this very well. And then we have many positive work streams ongoing, and they're listed here at the screen. And I group them in kind of 3 groups, and they're actually here in 3 different rows, right? So I'll look at the project itself. We have a stronger project, as Tyson explained. Many things ongoing to improve the project. Our resource, we've got many work streams ongoing to improve the resource and upgrade the resource. And then our focus on the downstream side, what Dino is working on, and his team, is to make these higher value, higher margin products that actually, from a market perspective, get rewarded. As proof, Albemarle is currently trading at 27 times 2022 estimated EBITDA. So, we hope that we'll be there in the future. The second row are market dynamics. So from a market perspective, the market is tightening, which means 2 things, right? It means that prices will increase, which is positive. And now if you combine that with there's only very few sources of new boron coming available in the near future, it only helps our case. It also helps that boron partners are actually willing to talk to us. They see the market as well. They're interested in new offtake agreements. They're interested in technology partnerships, and they're interested in education. So that's the other thing that and the third one is boron education. As I think Chan said it, that boron in the US is maybe the story is not well known, but we notice we got a lot of momentum right now, and we feel it becomes more mainstream. I think the audience is trying to understand it now and is understanding it, and it's of course driven by the need for for Boron for these applications and global decarbonization initiatives and others. At the last line, I would group them as enablers. So at the top, we have projects. Second row, we got market dynamics. At the last row, we got the enablers. I think you've seen a very diverse and a very experienced management team. We have skill sets that can help this project forward from an operational perspective, from an R&D perspective, and capital market perspective. This team has done it before, and we're all very excited. And then, and the other thing I want to say is, this team, the incentives are in line with the investors, right? So we're all if the investors win with the share price, we win. So that's very, very positive. ESG is almost a must, right? And a lot of people don't think about it, but we have a fantastic opportunity to engineer ESG into our project. And that's what Tyson and his team is doing. From a management team, from both corporate and from a project level, we definitely want to do that. And as proof, 1.3 trillion assets under management are just in North America in ESG funds. So there's a massive opportunity here, on this, to have this ESG angle. And then the US listing, it is on track for December this year or early January. So we're excited about that. As Chan said, we have a very clear investment banking strategy, and our initial focus will be on the California market. This said, of course, the Australian investors will be important going forward as well. So, don't take this as Australia is not important anymore. With that, I want to. Well, I
Henry,
see we have a lot of questions that came in, so maybe we'll go back to Anthony before we wrap it up. And I think we have another 20 minutes or so. So Anthony, you want to take it over?
We'll do it in 2 minutes, Henry. So the first question is the dilution for ABR shareholders. How can we have no dilution? So ABR has set up a subsidiary that it owns 100% of. That subsidiary is called 5E Advanced Materials. ABR is effectively, all of ABR shareholders are receiving shares in that subsidiary. So there is no dilution as part of the listing into the US. There is no dilution. If you own 1% of ABR today, you will own 1% of 5E Advanced Materials when we're listed into the US. We want to be very clear, no dilution, no acquisition by a SPAC. It is ABR effectively demerging, if you like, by giving all of ABR shareholders exactly the same amount of shares in 5E Advanced Materials. The next question is maybe for Tyson. What are the plans for salt wells?
Sure. Thanks, Anthony. So we're currently doing due diligence around salt wells. We're excited about the potential possibilities there. But in terms of our big capital focus and our big manpower focus, it's the project at Fort Cady. So salt wells remains an interesting possibility for us. We are continuing to do geological work there, but our Fort Cady project is much further advanced.
Maybe for you, Henry, when do you think longer term development plan will be known? Will the new BFS be out prior to funding initiatives, debt, equity?
Yeah, so long term, the BFS is currently scheduled for Q2 2022, and we're on track to do that. So it's now from a schedule perspective, it's perfect timing for the larger scale operations. So I think that answers the question, Anthony.
Okay, for you, Chance, there's a question with respect to when do you plan on getting in front of US investors? Before US listing?
Thanks, Anthony. We're going to do a mix. I would say a mix. So it's going to be likely before. So let me be more definitive. Yes, the answer is yes. We will be meeting with, first off, is going to be the investment banks and the research groups. the US focused groups before the relisting. And then also we're going to start doing some outreach, initial outreach, but right around the relisting, we're going to do a large roadshow with our lead banking partner. That's probably a week long in duration. And we're going to go through all their broker networks in a couple different cities. So we will do a pre-roadshow, pre-analyst teach-in, followed by a larger scale roadshow right around the relisting.
Okay. Maybe I'll throw this out to the whole team. What dreams do you have for the value of ABR share price on NASDAQ in 2025?
Maybe I'll take a shot at that. Well, dreams are very positive, but it's difficult to kind of predict what the share price is doing, and I shouldn't do that. But what I can say, right? People ask us, what companies do you compare yourself with? And I would say, a company that's close is MP Materials. They're in California. They also have, the focus on scarce resources. There's an ESG component, and the focus there is very, very similar. And they, their market cap currently is, I think it's about 6 billion or so. So you can do the math there on the share price, right? We have roughly 50, well, just under 50 million shares. So I think that's how I like to answer it, Anthony. I don't want to give a number.
I think it's safe to say that we are expecting it to be higher than our current market cap.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And look at the 27 times that Albemarle is trading on. We're positioning ourselves at present as a mini Albemarle. We think we've got enormous opportunity. It's a much bigger resource than what we had anticipated. The enhanced DFS suggested a $450 million USD EBITDA target in full production. So I think you can do the sums from there. Quickly trying to round it out. There's a question: can we draw comparisons between Ioneer and ourselves? We'll start quickly to say that Ioneer is a lithium focused with a boric acid byproduct, where we're really a boron focus with a boron specialties proposition with some byproducts coming in the form of lithium in SOP and in gypsum. So different operations, and they've done tremendously well, and we applaud them for their success. I'm just trying to see whether there's any other. Maybe Henry and Chance, what does the news flow look like from this stage over the next 6 to 9 months?
I can start that, right? So I think it's going to be busy from a news flow perspective. There's lots of things ongoing. This team, you have the core team, but on the administration, we will be hiring some executives there. You'll see the announcements pretty soon. That's just to beef up the team even stronger to deal with being a public company in the US. Of course, we will continue to update, give updates on our project while Tyson will continue to improve our project and his team. So you'll see the updates as we go. We will announce, probably more LOIs. What Dino is working on. There's a couple of very interesting discussions ongoing, both on the technology perspective and on the offtake perspective. So you see those announcements there. Of course, the US listing will keep you updated on how that's moving forward, right? The schedule you've seen in this presentation, but we'll give you updates on that. And then I would say as I said, next year in Q2, the BFS is targeted, so they'll come. Relatively soon, we also will release an update on the resource, right? So, as part of the NASDAQ listing, we need to present, or we need to prepare an SK 1300. And that will be a public document as well. So that's coming out fairly soon. So I think there's lots of activities. Chance, I'm not sure if you want to add anything or if I missed anything.
No, Henry, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, just quickly, there's just a couple of questions with respect to the listing. Maybe for you, Chance, what market cap will the initial roadshow to investors in the US be set at? Premium or discount? I think that maybe you just want to make it clear that there is no market cap because there's no fundraise associated with the listing.
Yes, direct to relisting, there's no need for primary. So there's no commitment to offering any primary on the relisting. So there is, again, no capital associated with the relisting in and of itself. So just to kind of clearly answer that, Anthony, I hope I understood that correctly.
Yeah. I mean, effectively, the best proxy for what will be worth in the US is what we're currently worth on the ASX.
Yes, again, because the shares are pari passu, you're getting the equivalent ownership as an Australian investor, as an American, you're getting the equivalent ownership, no dilution. What you own today is going to be what you own post relisting. There's no change, no dilution. Ultimately, if the share price and American support comes through, share price goes up. Conversely, up and down will be linked one for one between the two on percentage ownership.
Yep. Okay. Just with the CDIs so when you do the conversion, yes, you just contact the company, and yes, the CDI conversion is on a 10-for-1 basis. So 10 CDIs give you one NASDAQ security. In terms of US citizens, we do trade on the OTC. So yes, you can buy shares on the OTC board. Quickly with you, Dino or Tyson, with respect to the Mannheim furnaces and the procurement of those furnaces, there's a question with respect to what's our strategy there.
Tyson, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. So as we look at our process design, we evaluate multiple equipment suppliers across not just SOP, but across boric acid and all of our products. So we're well aligned with shareholder value, and we'll make the decision based on the best value for the shareholder there.
Okay, and another one, Tyson. How does ABR estimate well flow rates for recovery? Yeah,
so that's a good question. So as we do work here, we have drilling cores. So we actually have material from the ore body. And we flow material through it on a bench scale, and so we can calculate then permeability, we can calculate flows, and we can scale that up in various scale up sizes. So there is science behind it, and quite a bit of engineering behind it. So we do have some data to support what we're saying.
Okay, just maybe the final question for Chance or Henry. What about future cap raises and dilution?
I can take that, Henry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Yes. Look, we're all well aligned as equity holders of the company. I would say we are going to be very protective with our equity cost of capital. Again, we are going to be opportunistic with raises. In the US market, liquidity matters. So balancing trade volume and market cap size will be imperative for getting fund flows into the story, and which will support our stock. But when it comes to long-term capital financings, we're probably going to lean towards about 50-50 debt and equity, leaning ideally more so towards debt because of our current share price. We see a lot more upside in that. So I will say future capital raises will likely be at that 50-50 structure, if not a little bit more so towards the debt side. But really, we're going to be very opportunistic, balancing between share price as well as trade volume and market cap in the domestic American market.
Just quickly, Chance, our investment banking partner in green bonds, maybe just a quick commentary there.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a great segue. So because of our ESG angle and tilt, we have a very good opportunity to receive some green bond issuances. So on the credit side, that is absolutely going to be an area we look to target. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention government grants. We are currently working on applications for several grants outstanding that we qualify for. That would be a very cheap form of capital coming into the company that would finance the project moving forward. Again, it is not in our base case assumptions. We are working on it, but I'd tell you that'd be something we're actively targeting.
Brilliant. I think we've answered all of the questions. Once again, if we haven't answered a question, you're very welcome to give me a call, or even Henry or Chance, who their phone numbers are on our ASX releases. Jane, we might hand back to you.
Yes, wonderful. That is all we have time for today. And as Anthony just did mention, you can reach out via the contact details on the bottom of our ASX releases. We look forward to hosting you again soon.
Thank you, everybody.